Alright guys, so today we're talking about Battlefield 2042. And so while there is a fair amount to talk about here, there is no campaign, so it's probably going to be a significantly shorter review than most. Now, you might like that, you might not like that, but it is what it is. So typically I start out with gameplay or something, but I want to start out with the bugs and performance. Alright, and so this happens, right? This is on a Series X. Now, this is relatively early in the launch, but still, if I'm paying more money, it should work. And so, the game didn't work at launch, right? Terrible FPS. If I touch my controls, try to customize in any way, shape, or form, my entire game crashes. What else we got? We have stuff where I can't spawn in, bugs where you're stuck in the down state, the game not opening at all, servers being down, being disconnected from servers, only being able to play certain maps. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Alright, and it's gotten better as the early version of the game, I guess, has gotten out, and we've gotten into the full release now a full week later, but it's still definitely not perfect. So that being said, I just want everyone to be aware of that. The game had a horrible launch. It's super buggy. Sometimes the game doesn't even open. I mean, like I said, frame rate, all of that good stuff. So performance-wise, pretty bad at start. That being said, everything else is pretty good. The graphics, right? That's what I want to touch on next. I don't want to go into gameplay yet, because that's going to be, as you can guess, a majority of the video. And so, graphics, the game looks really good. Now, is it next-gen looking? Is it the new standard for games? No. Right? You sacrifice the game looking completely next-gen and like a brand new thing you've never seen before, higher than Forza levels, for 128 players. Right? And that's very clear. It's very close to Battlefield 5. There's slight improvements and slight downgrades here and there, but really, it's Battlefield 5 with ray tracing visually. Right, and so again, this is all on Series X. I can't attest for how it looks, runs, or plays with smaller lobbies and less players on old consoles. So, that being said, the game looks great, right? Let's get into the gameplay, because that's really the most important part. So the gameplay, what you'll be doing in Battlefield 2042, right? It's split between 3 modes. So typically the way Battlefield kind of works out is there's their campaign, their multiplayer, and that's it. But there's a lot of modes in the multiplayer, at least pre-Battlefield 1, even 1 and 5 have a decent amount of modes. But before those games, there were a lot of modes, a lot of maps, along with the campaign and co-op depending on the battlefield. Here, it's just multiplayer, hazard zone, and portals. So let's start with portals, because I think that's the easiest one to talk about. And so the way Battlefield Portals works is it's essentially custom lobbies. That's all it is. But it allows you to make custom lobbies in Battlefield 1942, Battlefield Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and then of course Battlefield 2042. And so I'm kind of split on this because it adds replayability to if you don't like Battlefield 2042's multiplayer, or if you get bored of it and want to go play something else. There's all of these maps, or if you haven't played, like me, Battlefield 1942 or Bad Company 2, there's those options there. My other problem with this is that it's insanely limited, right? So yes, there's Battlefield 3 here. That's what I'm going to use as an example, because that's what I've played the most and have an absurd amount of playtime on, right? But there's 10 guns from Battlefield 3, along with, very simplified classes. You don't have every single rocket launcher, for example, as an engineer, and every support thing, and every grenade launcher and med kit as the assault or medic. It's just a very simplified, toned down version. There's 2 maps in each of the Portal games, right? So you have 2 from 1942, 2 from Bad Company, 2 from Battlefield 3, right? So it's just a simplified, boiled down version, and you can do whatever you want, whether that's increased movement speed, health. There's a lot of XP farms on the North Shark Canals, the Team Deathmatch, just grinding XP. So this is basically your custom lobbies if you just want to do some stupid, crazy shit, or you want to go play an old Battlefield game. Like I said, I've touched this once or twice, but really not going to mess with it much. It is what it is. Might come back to it when I'm bored of all of the main content, but it's fine. It's more just a additional mode for fun. right? Then from there, you have Hazard Zone, which is basically Battle Royale at the end of the day, right? There's these custom spawns for these objectives, right? The hard drives. There's probably about, depending on the map and the match and all that stuff, 10 to 15 around the map at a certain given time. And again, depending on the match, some there's only a few, some there's a lot. And so what you do is you go to these objectives, you collect up these hard drives, and you fight other players also trying to collect the hard drives, and AI defending the hard drives. So once you have them, you gobble them up, go to the extraction zone, and you leave, right? Pretty much for all intents and purposes, it's a battle royale once you're inside, right? There's no floor loot or any of that stuff. But you choose a gun and a loadout and all that stuff, you drop in. Essentially, it's battle royale. You die, you're dead, you can be redeployed, all that good stuff. And then once you've made it out, this is kind of where it changes. If you make it out and you survive, or even if you don't survive and just do halfway decent, you get money, and you use that money, your credits, whatever you want to call it, to go ahead and invest that into your next match. So your next match, you could get a better gun, or more armor, or, quicker reload speed, stuff like that, tactical perks, weapons, all that good stuff, right? And so with friends, this is fun. With randoms, it's unbearable. You need communication here. You need to know what's going on. You need to have a plan, all of that good stuff. Plan who's bringing what. But if you don't have a squad, it's not going to be as fun. But that's kind of just how Battlefield is in general. I haven't decided if I like the fact that it's on the multiplayer maps or not. I think I do, but I feel like as I play the maps more and more and get bored of them, I'll start to lean away from that. But again, there's not really too much here, but it's just another mode they added because they're pulling out a campaign and probably wanted to dip their foot in Battle Royale again. Now, from here you have your meat and your potatoes, all-out warfare, right? There's not 40 different modes here or anything like that. It's just Conquest and Breakthrough. Conquest, you know what Conquest is, right? There's objectives, you capture them. The only thing that's slightly different here is because the maps are so big, instead of just being A through F, it's A through G or whatever. It's A through G, and then you have an A1 and an A2, a B1 and a B2, a C1 and a C2. And you have to take both of the mini objectives to have the main objective. And so I really hated that at first, but I like it a lot now. It breaks things down, gives you more points to fight over if you don't like certain points, and really has some interesting contesting points, because now instead of just you have A as your spawn and then B is your front, and they have G as their spawn and F as their front, and then you're fighting over the two. With all these mini objectives, it gives you a lot of room to fight over E1 and E2 and B1 and B2 while still having F and A and all that good stuff. So that works really well for Conquest, I think. It also helps that there's 128 players a lot. Absolutely love it. But from there, you have Breakthrough. Now, this was introduced in Battlefield 1, I believe. I don't think I touched it till Battlefield 5, really. It might be a Battlefield 5 thing. I'm not exactly sure. And essentially, this is just Rush reworked. If you don't know what Rush is, essentially it's an old Battlefield game. I think, like I said, they took it out after Battlefield 4. It might have been in Hardline. I'm not positive. I don't think it was. And the way this worked, two objectives. You go to them, you plant them, basically holding X, and it explodes. You take them out, you move to the next set of objectives. Right? So it takes all those players and vehicles and all that good stuff and kind of breaks the map down into big chunks. And so personally, I like this more just because it has everyone in one area, all 128 players fighting over a decent sized zone. It's not like it's a tiny one building zone. It's a decent chunk of the map. It's typically broken down into like thirds, so it's still a scalable size that you're allowed to fight in. And then from there, you have your AI modes, which I'm not really going to get into, fighting against AI solo or co-op, but that's pretty much the same thing as regular multiplayer, just against bots. There are bots that will fill up lobbies of regular multiplayer against other players if you don't have a full lobby, but at least right now, technically a week after soft early launch, I haven't seen any bots in full games, or at least not to the extent that I noticed in the beta. And so, from here, what else is there? Well, It's the big thing for me. I talk about it when we review anything, and that's progression. So why am I playing? Why should I keep playing? For me, it's not about just having fun. That's not going to keep me entertained for long enough. That's my problem with Halo Infinite. It's all the progression is locked behind a battle pass, which I refuse to pay for. And so here, it's kind of done in a few different ways. There's weapons and upgrades and customization and skins and all of that stuff. But I want to talk about first are the specialists. So the way this works is I believe there's like 10 of them or something, and there'll be more as the game continues to go on and the battle pass comes out and all that good stuff. They'll release more. But this is replacing the class system, and so typically how this works is you have your assault, medic, support, engineer, sniper, right? And they change from what they're called and what they do in pretty much every other Battlefield game. And so that would like your anti-vehicle, your ammo / anti-vehicle, your health, and then your sniper and recon, right? And so really how that worked in other games, the weapons were tied along with the gadgets to the class. Engineer would have SMGs and battle rifles. Assault or medic would have assault rifles. Support would have LMGs, and then recon would have sniper rifles, obviously. And so the way that worked and why it worked well was because you had a distinct experience tied to each class. Like I said, the way they do it here is with specialists. So each one of them does something different, right? You can still have your gadgets and all of that stuff as any of them, right? You can be the shield guy and have a rocket launcher, or you could be this drone guy and have a rocket launcher, right? Even though technically one of them is an assault type character and one of them is a recon / support type character, you can have the rocket launcher on either of them. That applies for rocket launcher, non-lock-on, and to lock-on ground and anti-air. The armor, there's some other stuff in there, C4, repair tool, definitely missing some, but those were in there. Same thing with grenades, and the 20, I believe, 8 weapons in the game, right? So those are interchangeable between anybody, right? If you want to use an assault rifle as a recon guy, if you want to use a sniper rifle as assault guy with the grappling hook, you can interchange all of that. And so I don't have so much as a problem with that as I do with the specialists. So the specialist seems like an idea, and it's not unique, right? Rainbow does it, Overwatch does it, Call of Duty did it at a point, like everything does it, right? And so it seemed like an idea that they, like, this is a really good idea, this will change things up, it'll completely change how everyone plays Battlefield. And then they got, like, 3 months away from launch, they'd only developed about 3 of them, right? And then they said, crap, just start making them. I don't care if they're good or useful, just make them. Good examples of this. The wingsuit lady. Not only does she have a wingsuit, which is incredibly fun, and this is an important distinction to make, there is a very, very fine line between fun and useful. Nobody wants to be the medic. That's not fun, right? But in other Battlefield games, medics had the best guns, medics had grenade launchers, so it balances it. No one wants to give ammo as support, but they had C4 and LMGs, right? No one wants to repair the vehicles as engineer. You get my point, right? And so the reason that's absolutely broken here is that the characters, the specialists, aren't balanced. The wingsuit lady, which is a fun ability and useful because you can flank behind entire enemy teams, also has anti-personnel, anti-tank, and anti-vehicle grenades, right? Lock-on anti-vehicle grenades, and then EMPs for any vehicle, and scatter grenades for people. Problem with this is she has now taken up essentially 3 what could have been specialists, right? She's a traversal, she's anti-vehicle, and she's anti-personnel, right? Same thing with, there's a lady that can scan people through walls. That's an insanely good ability, right? But then you have someone who could put a shield down, right? And that seems good. And something like Call of Duty or Rainbow, that is good on small scale maps. But on this, where it's a very open map, and there's 128 people, unless you got a lot of people with shields, it doesn't do as much as it should compared to some of the other operators. You got people who hack enemy vehicles. You have a guy who puts a sentry gun down. Like, well, none of these are bad ideas. They're not enough compared to some of the really good characters. So there definitely needs to be a balancing game here. Maybe they need to, tie things together, and the way they have it set up, they just can't do that, right? There should have been a character who was the anti-air character. He had a stinger, an igla, an RPG, right? A multitude of lock-ons. Some things do high damage, but maybe there's no flares. They go through flares or take a long time to get to the target. Some things do low damage, but have a lot of ammo and move very quickly. Then there'd be non-lock-on. You could do the same variation there. It's freaking future. He could have like a laser rocket launcher, right? Then you could have had an anti-tank person, those same variations there, right? Then you have your traversal people, your grappling hook, your wingsuit. You could add like an exosuit, like jetpack type of thing, right? And that way you could have had the distinct classes, the advantages of all of that, and having everybody be useful, while also having it fun for everybody, right? There's a guy with grappling hook in this game. That is a fun character, but in very, very small circumstances and few maps is that useful. Speaking of the maps, not counting the Portal map, so Battlefield 1942, Bad Company 2, or Battlefield 3, I believe there are 5 maps in this game, maybe 6. Not a lot, but they are very big, and there's a lot of objectives, so there is replayability there. Vehicles function well. I hate the aerial controls. I'm not good at flying at all with these post-Battlefield Hardline vehicle controls, but it is what it is. Right, so we talked about specialists, how the gadgets and all of that work into everything. Let's talk about the weapons and how that progression works. So perhaps the most important part is the guns you're using. Right, because that's what you're going to be doing 90% of the time. The vehicles and the specialists and all that stuff is cool, but the gunplay is what you're doing most of the time. And so I believe there's 28 guns. There might be 24 in Battlefield 2042, but then you have the Portal guns from each of the games that I'm tired of saying over and over again, that each, I believe, also have about 15 to 20 guns, so they'll argue that there's 80 guns in this game. There's not, right? They're just stealing guns from the other games, right? Battlefield 2042 guns, like I said, there's 20 some odd guns, right? And so, while I was scared from the beta and the customization system that there was only going to be 3 attachments on a scope, a barrel, a magazine, and a rail, there is a large range of attachments, different scopes, different zooms, different grips, vertical and horizontal grips. You got different ammo types, close range, long range, anti-vehicle, you got suppressors, compensators, muzzle brakes, all of that stuff, right? I would estimate there's about 10 in each weapons slot, so 10 scopes, 10 muzzles, 10 magazines, 10 undergrips. That changes for every weapon. Obviously, the pistols, I don't think have that many, but there is a fair amount of variety there, so that is a good thing. There's also this system where you can change things on the fly while in battle. You pick 3 from your 10 scopes, or however many it is, and say, these are the ones that I want to have. So you can have like a holographic, a 2, and a 4X slotted, and you can switch between that depending on the situation you're in, or whether you want, close quarters combat type ammo where it does less damage but you can shoot faster, or regular ammo, or all of that good stuff that allows replayability, right? The only problem I have with this, right, is that one, there's not that many weapons to choose between. So like for me, I'm at the point I'm like level 15 or something, maybe 16. I've gotten halfway through the first marksman rifle and a decent ways into the second one. And so the problem here is that it kind of forces you to use the same weapon, because in other games, for example, like Call of Duty, you have to have a certain level with the weapon, which is technically tied to kills, but you get XP for hitting people, assists, all that good stuff. Here, it is kills, and it is a large number of kills, right? It's, like 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. I think it's in increments of 30 for each set of attachments. So you'll get 1 muzzle, scope, barrel, and undergrip attachment at 30 kills, 60 kills, 90 kills, blah, 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 on and on, until you have them all. Like I said earlier, the problem with this is that if you're playing more objective-based, or maybe you play vehicles a lot, or you just like to play, hold the objective, or play safe, and you don't go run around, is that you very slowly, it took me, days to get my first set of attachments, and the way the weapons work by default, at least the 2 that I've used, you have to have those at least first set of attachments for things to be usable. The first assault rifle, you can't hit shit without attachments. The first marksman rifle does not do enough damage or shoot quick enough in order to be halfway decent without any attachments. So you get my point there. You pretty much have to grind out these weapons. You can't be switching, I want an SMG this match, assault rifle this match, a sniper rifle this match, or you're not going to be unlocking anything. Progression doesn't bother you, obviously this won't be a problem, but for me, I feel like it's a slow grind. Now, being said, it's good because you can grind out all the attachments on all of these weapons. So, we've gone over the specialists, the maps, portal, hazard zone, warfare, the weapons, gadgets, all that good stuff. So where do we stand on this video that was supposed to be short? And so, really, with no campaign, it's definitely hurting, right? And so, on next gen, this game costs $70, so we're critiquing it on a $70 scale. So I made a rule that I don't think I verbally announced that I'm applying, but I pretty much applied this to everything this year. If you charge me $70 for a Series X game, I'm taking a point off. I think I talked about this in my rant for Battlefield. I don't think I addressed it in Call of Duty. So that's automatically down a point just because you charge me $70, right? Charge me $60 like everybody else. Okay. Point number 2. Because of the launch of this game, I can't decide if it's, no, this was a terrible launch. I'm taking 2 points off. The game's still broken. It's still buggy. There's visual glitches. I literally had a match 2 hours ago where I could not change my loadout, my operator, anything. There's a point for that. Now, we're sitting at an 8 with those points out of the way, but not having a campaign here, I think, really hurts it. Right? Multiplayer is fun, but because of quick development time and freaking COVID and the number of players and all that stuff, trying to upgrade to next gen, there's not a lot of maps. There's not a lot of game modes. And so that means the multiplayer is going to get stale relatively quicker than I would like it to, right? There's not too many weapons. While there's a fair amount more attachments and customizations than I expected there to be, there's not as much as there used to be in previous Battlefield games. So, I said, that's the multiplayer. Hazard Zone's fun, but it's not enough to warrant an entire game mode. Like, it's one of those things that when you start playing, you'll play a match, and then that's pretty much it. Right? You do one match or two every time you play the game. It's not something that I would ever see myself maining, right? It's fun, it's cool, it's different, but it's not the new next big thing, right? And then Portals is just custom lobbies. I don't really care about that. Unless I'm farming XP, I'm probably never going to touch that again. So all that being said, along with the launch and charging me $70 for the game, I think this game sits comfortably at a 7, right? It's good, because when it works, this game's like a 9, right? This is a Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 level game when it works. Give me more maps, more customization. That'll come through the Battle Pass and later on. This is going to be, I'm telling you now, this is going to be a Battlefront 2. When another year, maybe not even, once all the bugs and the glitches and the servers and more content and weapons, once all of that is there, this game is going to be huge, right? It's going to be very good. So, like I was saying, when the game works, and it works well, this game is like an 8 or a 9. But the way it works right now, and how buggy it is, and the launch, it's like a 7. But that's just my opinion. Just let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys on the next one.